I never planned expression. And I believe that you cannot plan expression. But because if you plan it, you do every evening the same thing, which is the most boring way of handling music, for my opinion. My name is Thomas Quasthoff. I'm a bass baritone, and I try to live a very creative life.
So, Thomas, thank you so much for joining me. It's a delight to speak with you. So, on this series, I've had so many conversations with musicians, and I'm usually exploring the subject of how one overcomes the challenges, and I emphasize how many challenges there are, but I actually want to focus a little bit on finding the joy in music and finding a musical life which has longevity and finding a musical life where we can feel balanced and well with ourselves. And I have now recently learned that jazz is a way that you have fun making music. Do you feel artistically more free when you're doing jazz?
Yes.
Because, yeah.
I mean, you have to be very straight. If you sing a Winterreise, every note has to be a quarter, every eighth note has to be an eighth note, a 16th note is a 16th note, the rhythm, the tempo, all is fixed and clear. It has to be. But if you sing, I can sing, for example, My Funny Valentine. I can sing My Funny Valentine or My Funny Valentine. So there are so many opportunities to work with the musical material, which is definitely much more free than in classical music.
Is your headspace and your emotional space in your preparation for a jazz concert versus walking out for Schöne Müller, and is it a different place? Is one more serious than the other?
I wouldn't compare it. Mm-hmm. The way of singing is different. The way how we rehearse it with my musicians or with a classical pianist is completely different. And but it's very difficult to compare that. The approach, the vocal approach is totally different, and you try keys and the phrasing, you arrange a song much more than you are allowed to do that in classical music. And both is in the same way serious, looking on the way to prepare a song or to prepare a concert of jazz. I mean, what kind of message you want to send. Jazz is more free, and the way we are doing it with my band is we choose songs that I always loved to sing, and we will start at the end of August to work on a new program. And I only sing songs that I always wanted to sing. Yeah, I just discovered Johnny Hartman, which I love so much. And even our voices are very comparable in a way.
You said your band. What do you mean by that? And how did you form this
I
group?
have two bands. One was created, yeah, that's really funny. I had my first professorship in Detmold, which is a short city in the northwest of Germany. And it's a very prestigious music university. And I met a guy who owns a music shop there. And he is a very, very good guitar player. And I was on a party with some students and some colleagues in Detmold. And suddenly somebody was sitting in a corner and played guitar, jazz guitar. And it was so good that I went to him and I said, "Excuse me, have you ever thought to accompany a singer with your guitar?" And he said, "Well, what would you say if we are creating in the pedestrian area in front of my music shop and play 4 or 6 songs together only to check, is it working?" And we did. And fact was that this is a pedestrian area two, which is in a crossway. So one street is going like this, and the other street is going like this. And after 10 minutes, we created such a chaos because nobody can go forward or backward because that so many people were standing in front of this shop, listen to us, so that we say we have to do that more. And the other band is with Wolfgang Hafner, this incredible drummer, Dieter Ilk, who is an outstanding double bass player, who played, by the way, with Charlie Mariano, and he's playing with Till Brönner, one of the most famous German trumpet players. And we have a very young 26-year-old pianist in the band who just finished a recording with Steve Gadd. Yeah, so we are touring. I'm touring with two bands, with guests also, like here with Magnus Lindberg, and we have a lot of fun.
Speaking of fun, when did you first find the fun and the joy in music?
That sounds maybe a little ridiculous. There are recordings from me where I am 3 years old and singing in perfect pitch popular music songs. I was 3. And I think even when I could think, there is a story, a true story. When I was born, because of my thalidomide disability, my foot were backwards.
Uh-huh.
And they had to put me for 1.5 years permanently in a cast. And they fixed millimeter by millimeter. You see, my foot now is completely okay, of course. Uh-huh. Yeah, these are mine. And my parents, who visit me nearly every second, third day, came, and the nurse said, "Oh," I was 9 months old at that moment, 9 months. And the nurse said, "You have a very, very music-talented boy." And my mother said, "She's not even able to speak. What are you talking about?" "Yeah, we are singing a lot of songs with the kids who are all older, and all the melodies, after 5-10 minutes, your son is singing with us." So that was the first moment where my parents said, "What?" And later on, I mean, it was clear that it was more than a kind of hobby. I will not tell the whole story, it's a little bit long. So finally we found Charlotte Lehmann, with whom I worked 17 years. I started as a high soprano in her class. And I remember my first sentence, I said to her, "You can do whatever you like, but never be a tenor. This is not what I like. I want to become a baritone or even lower." And it worked, finally.
But did you feel at that, I mean, that's another leap to find that you have some artistic and musical sensibility, but it's another leap to decide that this is what you want to do for your life.
Well, I always wanted to do. The problem was not that I didn't want it. It was the problem I wanted, of course, to study at the university. And my teacher was in Hanover at the university. She had a professorship there. And the university said, "Yeah, but if you study singing, you have to play another instrument." So that's not possible. So I was forced to study law for 6 semesters.
Law.
I hated it. I hated it desperately. And finally, to have a finished job, I worked 6 years in a bank, did advertising and things like that. And then I had always these kind of little lucky moments. Then I remember that I presented a jazz program in a famous jazz club in Hanover. And I was singing also, but I spoke. And in the audience was a guy from the NDR broadcasting, came to me and said, "Have you ever worked for radio with your voice?" I said, "No." "I will call you next week." And a week later, I spoke my first news in the NDR news, and I was also working as a music producer, so for classical music programs and things like that. So then I finished my bank job and went to the NDR broadcasting in Hanover. And then I won the AAD competition, and I got so many concerts and offerings that I decided I cannot do both. I cannot really work as a professional musician and doing the radio job, because the radio job included to do sometimes overnight programs, which started at 10 o'clock in the evening and goes through the whole night till 6 o'clock in the morning. And then I had, for example, one day off, and the next day was from 10 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock. One day off and the night job again. And you cannot do this with a voice. That's impossible. So I decided I will freelance, and then the next thing happened. A very nice person who had a professorship in Detmold gave me a call and said, Tommy, here a position will be free for a vocal professor. Now more than 30 years I have my professorship. I have my concerts as a classical musician. I saw a lot of this world. I was in South Korea and Brazil, Argentina, Russia, everywhere.
In the mid-2000s, you came to Cleveland with the Cleveland Orchestra. You presented an evening of Bach cantatas, and I want to explore a little bit the creative process that goes into a project like that.
I think that my special approach to music was, first of all, for me was important that everybody can understand the words. And for me and my way of singing, it was always very important to use colors. So if a situation is sad, my voice sounds sad. If there's a situation, well, let's talking about a first love where you have butterflies everywhere, my voice sounds like this. And you can see it in my face. And I'm always saying to my students, what I cannot read in your face, it's not hearable. I never planned expression. And I believe that you cannot plan expression. But because if you plan it, you do every evening the same thing, which is the most boring way of handling music, for my opinion. I need the freedom to sing 10 nights Winterreise, and I must have the freedom to sing it 10 times different. Not as different if you sing a jazz song, because you have not the musical freedom to do that. But never, I would make a bet with you if you listen to 10 Winterreises of live concerts. And I know that there are 2 available on internet, on YouTube. One is with Maria João Pires in the Cologne Philharmonie, and one is with Daniel Barenboim in the Berlin Philharmonie. It's a different world. It's totally different. And maybe, I don't know, maybe, of course it was maybe also influenced by my disability, because of course I had situations much earlier and harder in my life than a person who has a normal growing up, like, let's say, Thomas Hampson. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he never had any kind of problem to grow to a great artist. Mm-hmm. I had some problems to go through. And maybe you hear that in the music.
Höre nicht, was es mir sagt, habe keine Ohren. Fühle nicht, was es mir klagt, Klagen ist für Toren. Lass dich in die Welt hinein, gegen Wind und Wetter. Will kein Gott auf Erden sein, sind wir selber Götter. Lass dich in die Welt hinein, gegen Wind und Wetter. Will kein Gott auf Erden sein, sind wir selber Götter.
And how about Fischer Dieskau's influence on you?
Well, as a lead singer, how can you not be influenced by him? I never worked with him, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Did you meet him?
Yes, of course I meet him. He helped me also very much, because the director of the Schubertiade in Schwarzenberg didn't want to invite me because he thought, oh, this is a disabled guy, and maybe it's more the sensation who makes him famous instead of being really a very good singer. And I knew that Fischer-Dieskau called him saying, are you crazy? He's one of the best lead singers we ever had. So you have to invite him. Finally, he invited me. And the funny thing was, then he asked every year, minimum, 3 times if I could come to the Schubertiade.
So do I recall correctly that in around the year 2012, I think I saw an announcement that you were retiring from, was it classical singing? Retiring from the stage?
That was exactly the period when my brother died.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But then it lasted a few years, and then you were back to
I started again to sing in 15. It was nearly 3 years. He was 2 years older than me, and we wrote 3 books together. He had a literature cycle in Hanover where he composed also songs and wrote his own lyrics, and I sang it. So we were incredibly close, and my brother was one of the most nicest, smartest, and beloved persons I've ever met in my entire life. And when he died, I lost really the contact to the ground. I lost completely orientation. It was terrible. And if you go through that and become stronger in a way, and the death of my brother made me also much more adult. Before that, life was fun and easy, and without not so many. That, of course, all the things which happened with my disability, that people looked at me like something exterritorial person. But you get used to that, even as a child. It's at the beginning was crazy, but you know, with 12, if somebody is looking, then But when a person is dying where you're very extremely close with, that was really hard. That was something very, very different. And I think I became adult. The way of teaching changed because I became inside myself much more quiet, much more balanced. And what shall I say? I mean, I'm very, very happy that I have very close friends in my life, which is for me not usual. It's a gift where you have also to work on. Hope that I'm a person who is working on that friendships are going on.
I want to back up a little bit. After the death of your brother, you lost your voice.
Mm-hmm.
Was that some sort of sympathetic reaction?
Yes. If the soul is heard and the heart is heard, nothing works anymore, really, right? It was a very complicated period at that time. I lost half a year before the diagnosis of my brother. I lost my mother. And, well, she was 84. It was age, and she didn't want, her kidneys were not working, and it was good that she died. And half a year later, my brother got this diagnosis of lung cancer without a chance, and my relationship at that time, my marriage was in a crisis. Of course, I was not in a good mood. I mean, how can you? And so it was a very, very difficult period in my life. But the positive effect was that I always had in my life very, very good friends who were with me, who were supporting me, who believed in me. And we have in Germany a very famous actress, Katharina Thalmach. Maybe you know the film from Volker Schlöndorff, Die Blechtrommel. It's after a book from Günter Grass.
I'll have to look for it.
The Nobel Prize
Yes.
winner.
Mm-hmm.
And she played a role there, and she's also a director. And she asked me, even in that time when I was not really in good condition, Tommy, I will direct Twelfth Night from Shakespeare. at the Berlin Ensemble. This is the Bertolt Brecht Theater in Berlin, the most famous theater in Berlin. And I want that you play the Narr, the clown. And I said, yeah, but I didn't sing for, and she said, I want to have music in and you sing. I said, but I didn't sing for 2 years. And she said, train it. And I did. And finally I did it, and we played it permanently sold out 4 years in this theater, and my voice came back, and this is then,
Were you surprised that your voice came back? Did you expect that it would? No.
Time heals wounds. And I was always a person who, I was born in November, where normally the weather is like tonight. But I am a normally very positive thinking artist. I'm always a person who looked forward. And I had once a concert with Sir Simon Rattle, and I had to stop in between the concert. Can you imagine? My parents were in the fourth row, and I had to leave the stage. And on the second concert day that I normally should have sang, Simon called me. And he said, Tommy, I know how you feel now. But I promise you, this is the beginning of a permanent gig. And never be angry about things that you cannot change. And I kept that so much in my life. And I did with Simon so many different concerts. We did 14th Shostakovich, I did Creation, Seasons, Matthew Passion, St. John's Passion, Mahler, Berlioz, Damnation de Faust I did with him. So we did so many incredible, challenging projects. I played with Martha Argerich here, Don Quixote à du Ciné from Ravel. And the last song is this drinking song, which starts and Martha Argerich came to the rehearsal like completely tired. And I got the first night, I got a telephone call at 5 o'clock. Can we work now? And I said, excuse me, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. I cannot sing now at rehearsal. So she came, and from the first moment on, she was there with so much energy and so much joy and fun. And this is what shall I say? This is what I always try to kept in music. And this is what I try also to give to young students here at masterclasses, to show them we have the most incredible, most beautiful job in the world. And do me a favor and put the best out of it. Don't sing only notes. Send a message to an audience. Take the audience with you on a journey together with you. And maybe that's my special way of singing, or my point of view of music making. We spoke with our friends here 2 days ago, and I said, I think the human race forgot to wake up in the morning and say very shortly, thank you, to wake up.
During those times when you couldn't sing, was there music that you listened to?
Stevie Wonder, Songs in the Key of Life, the album. Do you know that?
I don't. But I'm
don't?
But I'm collecting vinyl these days, so I'm going to have to buy that one, yes.
I love Stevie Wonder, of course, as an artist. I always listen to Afro-American music, of course. I like soul very much. I like jazz very much, and some others I listen to. I like the intelligence, not really the voice, but this trend-setting artist personality of David Bowie very much. I think his biography is really extremely interesting. And there are some other artists that I loved, and music always was a big friend, even when I was in my puberty. And every colleague in school got a girlfriend, and I didn't. Music was always my partner, was always taking my hand and said, Tommy, come on. It's okay. You have the music. It's fine.
Thomas, thank you so much for joining me in this conversation about life.
You're very welcome.
It was a great pleasure for me.
Too short.
It was too short. I feel like I could do a 10-part series here. Thank you so much.
Thank
This
you
was a
very,
pleasure.
very much.
Yes, thank you.